Today we are taking a look at Albedo from OVERLORD. This is the Race Queen version in the Coreful figure line by Taito. OVERLORD is a dark fantasy series built around overwhelming power, absolute loyalty, and the world of Nazarick led by Ainz Ooal Gown. Within that story, Albedo is one of the most recognizable characters in the series. She serves as the overseer of the Guardians of the Great Tomb of Nazarick, so she holds a very prominent position in the cast and leaves a strong impression through both her presence and her role in the story. Today's highlights for this figure are the flowing hair and the use of clear parts, the slit in the lower costume and the strap layout that creates depth around it, and the posing that makes full use of her body line. The first highlight is the hair. The long black hair already has a strong presence on its own, but the color shift toward gray and purple, along with the translucent tips, makes the ends feel lighter and more layered instead of turning into one heavy mass. That helps the back silhouette stay wide and elegant while still keeping visible separation between the main sections and the smaller outer strands. The second highlight is the lower costume layout. The slit on the outer side makes that section feel much more open, and the glimpse of the inner thigh through it adds extra appeal. On top of that, the straps crossing over the slit create a stronger sense of depth and make the whole area feel more layered. The third highlight is the posing. The chest pushes forward, the waist pulls inward, and the hips shift back, so the figure keeps one long continuous body line from the upper torso down into the legs. The arm over the head and the hand placed on the thigh also create separate points of attention, which makes the pose feel more specific and much more alive. This channel brings you figure reviews and anime merchandise updates straight from Japan. If you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe. The head is built around an expression that feels calm, heated, and slightly teasing at the same time. The eyes are narrow and long, with yellow irises and slit-like pupils that give the gaze immediate intensity, but the face never becomes harsh because the eyelids are not squeezed into an aggressive shape. The cheeks carry a soft blush, and the mouth is slightly open with a small fang visible inside, so the expression keeps warmth and softness even while the eyes stay sharp. That balance is what makes the face work so well. It does not depend on one element alone. The eyes establish the mood first, then the mouth and the faint color in the cheeks make the whole expression feel more inviting. The front hair plays a major role in framing that face. A long central bang falls diagonally from the forehead and cuts across the face, passing in front of one eye without covering the key parts of the expression. Because of that, the face is not presented in a plain open way. Instead, the front hair adds a narrow vertical interruption that gives the features more depth. Around it, smaller front sections separate into thinner strands toward the cheeks and neck, so the face is framed with more than one line. The head also has a single short strand rising from the top, and that small upward curve helps keep the top silhouette from feeling too flat. The horns give the upper area much of its identity. They project outward from the outer side of the head, start thick near the base, and curve forward in a smooth, rounded arc before narrowing toward the tips. They are not treated like thin spikes. They have enough volume to read clearly against the hair mass behind them. The long hair itself begins as a dense flow from the crown and back of the head, then opens into larger sections behind the body. The surface uses repeated grooves to separate the strands, and those grooves keep the hair from looking like one solid sheet. Farther down, the black shifts into gray and then into purple, and several ends use clear parts so the outer edges become lighter and more translucent. That is especially effective at the back, where the thick central mass breaks into multiple long sections and then into finer ends near the perimeter. The result is a hairstyle that feels heavy at the base, layered through the middle, and much lighter at the tips, which gives the whole head and back view a strong sense of flow. The upper body stands out because the figure leans far forward while still pushing the chest outward, and that combination creates a very strong line from the neck through the bust and down into the waist. At the neck, there is a small collar arrangement with white outer sections and purple inner sections, and those pieces open slightly outward instead of lying as one flat band. At the center of the neck sits a square ornament, and from that point, two narrow black straps drop straight down toward the chest. Those straps are important because they act as separate lines placed over bare skin, so the eye reads them as independent elements rather than as part of a single large costume surface. The purple top is arranged in two clear sections over the bust, with the center opening deeply between them. The upper edges curve over the chest in a clean, rounded line, while the lower edges follow the underside of the bust before cutting back to exposed skin. Because of that, the costume does not flatten the volume of the chest. The fabric line and the body line remain readable as separate layers. Small metallic details sit near the outer connection points, and those details help define where the neck straps meet the upper costume rather than letting the transition disappear into the surface. Below the bust, the torso narrows dramatically. The figure does not simply go from chest to waist in a straight drop. The rib area pulls inward, the abdomen curves back, and then the hips begin to swell outward again, so the upper body moves through several changes in volume over a short vertical span. That is what gives the torso such a strong presence even though the costume leaves so much skin exposed. The side of the body remains widely open, so the outer line of the bust flows directly into the waist without interruption. This is one of the biggest strengths of the sculpt because it lets the full body line stay visible from more than one angle. The arm over the head is covered by a long black glove that creates one bold dark shape from above the elbow down to the wrist. Because that arm folds behind the head, it frames the face and also gives the upper silhouette a higher outer point. The lowered arm works differently. It comes down across the front side of the body and ends in a fingerless black glove, so the hand and fingers remain visible. Each finger is separated clearly, and the purple nails add a small echo of the costume color near the thigh. The small collar sections, square neck ornament, narrow chest straps, long glove, and fingerless glove all act as separate additions placed across the otherwise open upper body, and that layered arrangement keeps the torso visually active from top to bottom. The lower body begins with a very short purple bottom section that wraps low around the hips and stops high on the upper thighs. The outer side of that section is opened by a large slit, and that opening is one of the most important parts of the entire costume layout. It immediately gives the lower costume a more open look, and the glimpse of the inner thigh through it adds extra appeal without making the design feel simple. The area also feels more layered because the slit is crossed by two black strap elements placed at different heights. The upper strap is thicker and runs diagonally around the hips, passing across the upper part of the opening and through a square buckle before its end drops slightly away from the body. The lower strap is thinner and stretches across the lower part of the slit with smaller buckle-like fittings at several points. Because those two straps cross the same opening at different levels, the section gains a clearer sense of depth instead of reading as one flat cutout. That is what makes the lower costume so visually effective. The eye reads the edge of the slit, the exposed inner thigh, and the straps passing across it as separate elements working together. From the back, the purple bottom becomes even more reduced, and the sculpt uses a strong central division to define the shape of the hips. Two black straps descend from higher on the back and connect separately to the upper edge of the lower costume, so the rear view also keeps the skin, strap, and purple fabric as distinct layers. The body line through this area is especially important because the hips are pushed back while the torso leans forward, which makes the transition from the lower back into the hips and upper thighs much more pronounced. The legs are set wide apart, and that wide stance creates a broad, open space between the thighs, while also keeping the lower silhouette long. The exposed thighs are followed by tall black boots that rise above the knees. At the top of each boot, a white band and a purple band wrap around the leg, making the shift from skin to boot very easy to read. The boots themselves are not treated as completely smooth tubes. Around the knees and upper calves, the sculpt adds shallow folds and tension lines, especially on the forward-facing areas, so the leg surface keeps some change rather than staying blank. The feet narrow into sharp high heel shapes, and the heels themselves give the lower body a thinner ending point. The lowered hand resting near the thigh also matters here, because the separated fingers and purple nails create one more small focal point at the front of the lower half and tie the arm gesture directly into the leg presentation. This figure is approximately 18 centimeters tall. That's about 7.1 inches. For size comparison, here's a 350 milliliter can. That's about 12 ounces in the US. Overall, Albedo by Taito stands out because this figure combines a seductive expression, flowing hair with clear parts, and a costume layout that makes full use of her body line. The head creates a strong first impression through the narrow eyes, yellow irises, and slit-like pupils, while the slightly open mouth, small fang, and soft blush keep the face from feeling too severe. The long front bang crossing the face also adds a sharp accent without hiding the expression. Above that, the horns and the small upward strands strengthen the upper silhouette, and the hair adds even more impact as it opens into separated sections and becomes lighter toward the translucent purple tips. The upper body works especially well because the pose and costume layout support the same idea. The chest pushes forward while the torso narrows quickly into the waist, so the figure already has a strong flowing curve from the front. The small collar sections, square ornament, and thin black straps create a clear visual path into the bust, while the purple top keeps the chest volume readable instead of flattening it. The open sides also help the body line continue smoothly into the waist. On top of that, the long glove on the raised arm and the fingerless glove on the lowered hand give the pose two clearly different accents. The lower body is where the costume layout becomes especially memorable. The short purple bottom leaves the hips and thighs very open, and the large slit at the outer side gives that section its strongest identity. The glimpse of the inner thigh through that opening adds extra appeal, and the straps crossing over it make the area feel more layered and deeper. The back view continues that idea with the reduced purple section and the separate black straps descending onto it. The wide stance also gives the lower half more reach, while the tall black boots keep the silhouette long and narrow down to the heels. What makes the full figure especially successful is the way every section supports the same impression. The head gives expression, the hair gives flow, the torso gives curve, and the lower body gives depth and extension. The pose leads the eye naturally from the face and horns to the chest, then through the waist and the slit in the lower costume, and finally down the long line of the boots to the feet. Because of that, fans of Overlord or Albedo will definitely enjoy this piece. With that focus on a strong expression, layered costume design, and a pose that fully emphasizes her silhouette, collectors who enjoy race queen-styled figures with a bold body line should find it a very satisfying addition. That's it for this video. If there's any part of the figure you liked, feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.